In this video, we got 3 undervalued keys with 3 comic content creators. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle Haas. We have a very special video here today with you guys. We got 3 undervalued keys with 3 comic book content creators. And at this time, I'd love to bring in my very special guests, Bry from Bry's Comics and Drew from Como Comics. Welcome to the channel. Guys, It's great to have you on.
Hey.
This is a very exciting video. We're doing a collab here today where we have one video coming out on each of our channels where we're going to talk about 3 undervalued key comic books. So definitely, if you're finding my video for the first time, make sure that after you watch this one, you hop over to Bry's channel, you hop over to Como's channel, and you check out the rest of our picks. We actually have a very special giveaway going on. I think, Bry, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talk about value. You get 9 undervalued keys. You get that content for free, and then an opportunity to win these awesome books in true YouTube collaboration fashion. We got an awesome giveaway on deck here. We've got House of Slaughter #1. This is the trade dress and virgin Chris Sheehan covers, including the 1 per store. We got Amazing Spider-Man 75, the Patrick Gleason Virgin cover with the COA. We got Giant Size Creatures #1, first appearance of Tigra. And last but not least, we have Marvel Super Special #16, the first appearance of many characters. Stay tuned for this video, and we're going to get way deeper into that book. And all you have to do to enter to win these books is subscribe to each one of these channels, comment on each video that's going to drop simultaneously, and like each video, and you're entered to win.
Very cool. Well, like the guy said, like, comment, and then enjoy the video. So let's get underway. We're going to kick it over to Drew here with his first pick.
All right. Thanks, Mickey. Glad to be here with you guys, and I'm going to jump right in it. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I'm a Spider-Man guy, and for my dollar, it doesn't get better than a classic John Romita Sr. Spider-Man key, and that brings me to Amazing Spider-Man 100. This is obviously the 100th anniversary issue. Got that amazing black background cover with all the faces and in the background, Spidey crawling along. Unfortunately, since the background is black, it's really tough in high grade. Census count, once you hit 9.4, really starts to drop off. And this book is not one of those books that has a really light census. There's like 3,700 copies on the census for this book already. Only 77 of those are in a 9.8, 176 in 9.6, and it really starts building once you get down below that. So this is a book you're going to be able to find. It's definitely out there in the market. What happens in this story? Typical Silver Age Spider-Man. Peter's, woe is me, I don't want to be Spider-Man anymore, so I'm going to whip up this little potion with my science kit that I keep in my bedroom, and I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to wake up, holy crap, I got 6 arms. Spoiler alert. So I don't know, with all the Spider-Man variants running around and just variants of characters all over the place, could there be some Spider-Verse or just multiverse Spec with a 6-armed Spider-Man? Maybe, but let's be honest, the main thing this book has is the awesome cover. You get the lead into Morbius, so that's pretty cool too. And I don't know, I just love this book, so that's why I picked it.
Absolutely. I mean, this is just a great book. And like, even to all the points you mentioned, I always just feel like anytime you get a classic title, like whether it's Fantastic Four or Spider-Man or whatever, and you have a Silver Age book in that title and you have a satisfying number like 100, this is always going to be a book that people want to collect. So that right there kind of makes it almost like a book that you're never going to really lose out in your investment in. And so ipso facto, it's almost undervalued in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and like I said, when you get into the high end grades, this book gets crazy. There's a super high dollar sale earlier this year that kind of outpaced some of the more recent sales for a 9.8. We can dig into that at another time. Grades I'm going to look at on all these books I'm talking about today are a 6.0 and a 9.2. And right now, this book is averaging over the last 90 days, it's $715 for a 9.2. For a 6.0, it's just over $200. And in my mind, I'm going to make a bad comparison. I'm going to look at it compared to like ASM 50, which comparable thing, classic Romita cover, hard, high grade background color, not prone to being graded, super high grade. Obviously, the Kingpin first appearance skews that a little bit, but you're looking at half the increase over the same time period in ASM 100 as compared to the ASM 50 in 6.0, and just a little over half of the same increase in 9.2. So if people start transitioning off of 50 as just a classic collectible Spider-Man cover and are looking for a second chance book, another classic John Romita Silver Age Spider-Man book, I think this is a leading contender.
Yeah, like I've said before, and I'll continue to say, you can never go wrong with early Amazing Spider-Man books as far as investment goes. And I think that the first Six-Armed Spidey thing brings up a really interesting point with comic book speculation. I mean, for ages, this book was never looked at for speculation potential because of that. But because of how vast the Marvel Cinematic Universe is getting and just how many directions they can go, it's time to start digging a little deeper into these keys and seeing more speculative potential behind it. So I think an early ASM book with bonus spec material, I think it's a great pick.
All right, well, let's go on now to the next book here. And the next book is actually going to be my pick, which is actually going to be Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos, number 5, which I couldn't fit in the title of our slide, but you guys know the book. Anyways, what is the significance of this? Well, you guys know this is the first appearance of Baron Strucker, one of the, in my opinion, kind of all-time classic Hydra supervillains there is in all of comic books. Other things I like about this book, it's a Kirby cover. I mean, look at those bare-chested men. So manly on that cover. You got to love that. And, you know, I think Baron Strucker is a really great supervillain character. I mean, he's the type of character that was printed on all those, you know, Marvel comic book cards that we all grew up loving. So, you know, he's at least significant in that sense where he was high enough rated that he could get his own comic book card. And, you know, if I look at this book and I look at the values and I compare it to some other villain comps that I would maybe argue are somewhat comparable to him, right? So if I look at, so you can see here, 7.0 fair market value for this book is around $231. And then if we look at some other comparisons, we got Tales of Suspense 46. That's the first Crimson Dynamo. That book is around $675. Fantastic Four 33. That's the first Atuma, who I would say is even less of a supervillain than Strucker, but let's not go there. That's 422. And then if we look at Tales of Suspense 94, a book that came out even many years later, that's first appearance of MODOK, and that's even higher value, $310. Now I realize that he has a show, but the point is that I'm just going to show you that if Baron Strucker ever, you know, kind of comes back up in pop culture, I mean, imagine the growth potential that this book could have in the market. And speaking of his pop culture potential, well, we already know that he's in the MCU. He was in Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, he is dead, but is he really, though? Because I feel like they showed us a picture of him being dead with like blood smeared on the wall, and it was insinuated that Ultron killed him. And I know you're going to say there was a deleted scene that kind of showed Ultron go over his shadow or whatever that is, but they took it out for a reason. And I think one of the reasons why they took it out is because I think that, you know, no character is truly dead in the MCU. They always want to have these people in the sidelines if they ever want to use them again. And little side note, the actor whose name escapes me, of course, was recently cast to be in the Indiana Jones film. And I know that has nothing to do with MCU, but the fact that he's still working in the Disney family gives me hope that he might show up in the MCU if there's at some point in the future. Also, we know that we had WandaVision. There was mention of Baron Strucker, at least in those commercials, which was like just a little nod and acknowledgement that he exists in our universe. And also, you know, his research in the Age of Ultron movie was super key to unlocking the mutant genes in Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So I feel like that's a plot thread they're not going to abandon, which means like, you know, when eventually they start to talk about mutants, they're going to have to bring up the fact that Strucker and Hydra got it out of Wanda and Pietro. So I feel like he's a character that could still maybe be on the table, but all that spec aside, I still think he's a great supervillain. I think this is a great Silver Age key and one that I think is very undervalued.
Absolutely. I mean, you nailed it on the head with this one. I mean, you clearly showed with the numbers that just significance alone, it's undervalued. And with speculation, I mean, that is the name of the game. It's specking on stuff before there's hype, before there's any confirmation or, reasons for these big spikes like we saw with Tales of Suspense 94. So not only did you show how it's undervalued today, but I think today would be a great time to pick it up.
Yeah, and I don't know how quick or how closely you guys follow Sergeant Fury in general, but that whole series is really starting to catch on. I don't know if it's just people are turning to it as kind of like a forgotten Silver Age title. Maybe it's not as picked over as some of the regular superhero stuff is, but Sergeant Fury 1's on a tear. 13's always hot. So in my mind, I think this book really only has one way to go. I think it's a great spec. I mean, let's just all assume that Photoshop is real in the MCU and that picture could have been a fake. And I think you're dead on. Nobody is completely out of the picture in the MCU unless it's like Mickey Rourke. I don't think he's going to come back.
All right, and with that, let's get to our third pick, which is Marvel Comics Super Special number 16. And are you guys ready for this long list of firsts?
I packed a lunch. Let's do it.
All right, I got to take a deep breath. We have first mention of Rogue Squadron, first team appearance of Rogue Squadron, first cameo appearance of Yoda, first full appearance of Yoda, first appearance of Boba Fett, first cameo appearance of Dengar, Bosk, IG-88, and Zuckuss the Bounty Hunters, some of which are actually rumored to appear in the Book of Boba Fett coming up. First cameo appearance of Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, and first appearance of Lando Calrissian, second appearance of Boba Fett, and the debut of Slave One, Boba Fett's ship, whose name was retired due to negative cultural context in 2021.
Is that it?
Do you need to catch your breath?
Yeah.
I mean, we can take a minute if we need to.
So the reason that it's all of those things, like the first cameo appearance and the first full appearance of many characters, is because this magazine is a 6-chapter adaptation of Star Wars: The Emperor Strikes Back in an oversized comic book magazine. And the magazine was released in May of 1980, and shortly after, they split up the 6 chapters in the magazine into 6 separate comics and then released them starting with Star Wars number 39 in September of 1980. So the magazine came out in May of 1980 and Star Wars 39 came out in September of 1980. And then they followed it up with Star Wars 40, 41, 42, 43, and 44. So Star Wars 39 through 44 is just reprinted material, like exactly reprinted material from this magazine, which came out first. So all of the significant things that happened in those 6 comics happened in this magazine first. And we as collectors care about that sort of thing, right? I mean, there's a certain element of OCD that we all have with what is the true first appearance? What is the true first cameo? So I think that the main reason that this book is undervalued is because most people just don't know about these facts, or at least not the full extent of it. And there's a lot of new collectors in the hobby because of new recent Star Wars shows and movies, and they likely just go to eBay and look up the first appearance of Boba Fett or something like that, and they may see this magazine pop up and Star Wars number 42, which brings me to the second thing holding this book back, and that is the fact that nobody wants a magazine form comic. The cases suck. Nobody has bags and boards for them. That's why this one that's in the giveaway doesn't have a bag and board. They don't fit in comic book boxes. They look weird displayed next to other comic-sized books, but I think that's secondary to the lack of awareness of which came first for why this book is undervalued. And there is a somewhat easy solution to the display issue, how this is different sizes. You just get a slab stand and put it in a slab stand and kind of have it on its own thing. So what do you think, Drew?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Magazines in general have been this second-class citizen in the industry for forever. And it's such a rich category to pull from, whether you're talking like the first White Tiger, Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord. There's all these amazing characters that have awesome appearances in Marvel magazines, and nobody likes them for all the reasons you said. You know, they don't fit in a comic box, bags and boards. That's a new problem, but it is still a problem. And up until recently, I could find these things for a song at a show because nobody looks in the magazine boxes. But these movie specials are even harder to find, at least in my opinion, because you're dealing with multiple fandoms here, where not just people who collect comic books, but you've also got the Star Wars fans that come in. So that can make getting your hands on these really tough if you even know that you're missing out on them. So when the comic book community comes around and realizes that all these first appearances are actually in a magazine, they're probably going to start digging through these boxes and see if they can bring one home.
And you brought up scarcity and being able to find them. And so let's dive into the numbers here just a little bit for this book. So here we are on GP analysis, and Marvel Super Special number 16. We see a 9.8 sold for $4,000 back in March. And if we look on the census for this book, we see that there's only 18 total 9.8s, 467 total on the census. And just to put that into perspective, if we look on the census for Star Wars number 42, which is the first comic book size appearance of Boba Fett, we have 391 9.8s and a total of 4,040 on the census. So there's about a tenth of these books out there on the CGC census. And if you look at the numbers that go along with that, where the 9.8 sold in March for $4,000, where there's only 16 of them, for Star Wars number 42 in that same month in March, one sold for $5,000, and there's almost 400 copies. There's almost 10 times more copies. And I kind of look at it as like a value situation where you get so much more value with Marvel Super Special. You get so many more first appearances. So you get just the first appearance of Boba Fett for more money. So that's why I just think it has gone undervalued for so long. If you look at other grades, you see here a 9.6 for Marvel Super Special, just sold in November for $736, which is a really low number compared to how it's performed for the rest of the year. And that was actually my purchase. I've been watching eBay for a long time, and I found that 9.6. It came up in the UK for $736. I could not click buy it now fast enough, because just the night before I had offered someone, I think $1,200, and they rejected it because they had it listed at 15. So it was just he listed it way too low. But it's not just that. If you look at the 9.4 one, just sold like a week ago for $257. So there are deals to be had. I don't know why people are sleeping on this so much, especially with all the Boba Fett spec right around the corner and the show coming out. But this is a book that's definitely undervalued today.
I think one of the points that you mentioned earlier on with just like being, the awareness around the book, I think really is the big problem, because we know that, if you look at, like Drew mentioned, White Tiger or Marvel Preview, with the Star-Lord first appearance or with the Rocket Raccoon first appearance, those books, I'm pretty sure, are more or have higher value than, say, Hulk 272 or like Marvel Spotlight Volume 2, number 6, things like that. So there's precedent to the comic collectors valuing the magazines at a higher level. It's just, I just don't think that they know about this one. So This is definitely a good opportunity. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this video here. Those were our 3 undervalued keys. I want to say thank you, Drew and Bryce, so much for coming onto the channel. Make sure that if you guys are watching this video, this is the first one you watch today, hop over to Bryce's channel, hop over to Drew's channel, Bryce Comics and Como Comic Books. Make sure you watch the other parts with our undervalued keys. Like, comment, set yourself up to win this book that you see right in front of you. So guys, thank you guys so much again for this. And yeah, we will see you on everyone else's channels.
Thank you. It was a blast. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for having me, Mick.